Imagine this slowly and carefully, as if you yourself are standing inside that silent room, because this story does not begin with thunder or fire, but with the quiet ticking of a clock counting the final seconds of a human life. A small dark room lit only by one trembling candle, whose flame bends with every weak breath of the dying man lying on the bed. His skin pale, his lips dry, his chest rising and falling with great effort, knowing deep inside that this night will be the last night he will ever see. And yet, instead of peace, his heart is heavy with secrets. Years of lies pressed inside his soul like stones. Lies he told to his family, lies he told to his friends, lies he told to strangers, and worst of all, lies he told to God. And now when eternity is closer than the wall beside his bed, he still believes that one more lie might protect him, might hide him, might save him from judgment. When suddenly the wooden door creaks open and a soft step enters the room, Padre Pio, the holy friar known for seeing souls and spirits, walks in quietly, his presence filling the air with something unseen but powerful. His eyes calm yet deep, as if they are not only looking at the man, but beyond him, into the invisible world that no ordinary human eye can see. He moves closer, sits beside the bed, gently takes the dying man's cold hand into his warm palms, and in a voice full of mercy says, "My son, God has sent me to help you. Speak the truth now. Do not be afraid. Heaven is still open." But the man turns his face away, his lips trembling as he forces out the words, "Father, I have nothing to confess. My conscience is clean." And at that very moment, something changes in the room. A heaviness settles in the air, the candle flickers, though no wind is blowing, and Padre Pio suddenly stops speaking, his eyes slowly lifting toward the empty corner near the ceiling, his face losing its color as if he has seen something that does not belong to this world. And in that silence, the dying man begins to feel a strange cold creeping over his body, not the cold of death, but a deeper, sharper cold that seems to come from the shadows themselves. And he whispers nervously, "Father, why are you staring like that? What do you see?" But Padre Pio does not answer immediately, his lips moving silently as if he is praying. And then in a broken whisper he says, "Lord, give him time. Please, give him time." And the dying man's heart begins to pound violently because he realizes that something unseen is happening around him, something that does not depend on medicine or doctors anymore. And suddenly faint sounds reach his ears, sounds like distant chains dragging across stone, like whispers spoken in a language older than fear. And he clutches Padre Pio's sleeve and cries, "Father, there are voices. I hear voices." And Padre Pio looks into his eyes with unbearable sadness and says, "Yes, my son, you are not alone. Angels are here to receive you, but others have also come because of your lies." And at these words, the man's eyes widen in terror as he begins to shake uncontrollably, his breathing turning into desperate gasps. And then he screams, pointing at the foot of the bed, "They are here. They are pointing at me. They are laughing," though no one else in the room can see anything at all. And Padre Pio leans close, his voice urgent, almost pleading, "For the love of God, tell the truth now. One honest confession, one single tear of repentance can still change everything." And in that moment, the man's entire life flashes before his eyes. Every lie, every betrayal, every secret sin rising like ghosts inside his memory. But instead of surrendering, pride hardens his heart. Fear closes his mouth, and he shakes his head weakly and repeats, "I have nothing to confess." And the instant those words leave his lips, the candle flame suddenly bends low as if pressed by an invisible breath. The temperature in the room drops so fast that frost seems to touch the air, and a deep groan escapes the man's throat. A sound not human, but filled with horror. His body arches violently, his eyes open wide, staring at something only he can see. And witnesses later said that his face changed, twisted by a terror no living person should ever know. And Padre Pio falls to his knees, crying out prayers as the man begins to scream that dark figures are climbing onto his bed, pulling at him, accusing him, calling out every hidden lie he ever told. And in his final seconds, the man finally tries to speak, tries to confess, but his tongue feels heavy. His breath fails him, and with one last choking cry, his soul tears itself away from his body, leaving behind a silence so heavy it feels like the room itself is holding its breath. And Padre Pio remains kneeling, tears streaming down his face, whispering prayers for a soul that had been so close to mercy and yet slipped away in the final moment. And later that night, he told the brothers in the monastery that he had seen the angels step back in sorrow, their faces covered in grief, while dark spirits rushed forward to seize the soul that had chosen lies over truth. And he said that heaven itself had waited with open arms, that one honest confession would have been enough. One word of repentance would have broken every chain. But the man's pride closed the door of mercy with his own hands. And Padre Pio warned everyone who heard this story that the hour of death is the most dangerous hour of all, because there are no masks left, no excuses, no hiding places, and every lie becomes a weight pulling the soul downward. Every hidden sin becomes a chain that binds the spirit, and only the truth has the power to set a soul free. And from that day forward, those who knew this story said that whenever Padre Pio spoke about confession, his voice trembled, his eyes filled with tears, because he had seen with his own eyes how close a human soul can come to salvation and still lose everything in a single moment of fear. And so this story remains as a terrifying reminder, whispered through time, that the final breath of your life is not decided by doctors or fate, but by the honesty of your heart. And when you stand at the edge of eternity, every word you ever spoke will rise to meet you, and only the truth will open the door to peace. And when the echoes of that terrible cry finally faded into silence, the room returned to stillness. But it was not the peaceful stillness of rest. It was the heavy stillness of something eternal being decided. Padre Pio remained kneeling beside the lifeless body for a long time, his hands trembling as he pressed his rosary to his lips, whispering prayers not only for the soul that had departed, but for every soul still living who might one day stand at the same doorway between time and eternity. The candle, which had burned wildly only moments before, now stood calm again, its small flame steady, as if nothing extraordinary had happened. And yet Padre Pio knew that the invisible world had just fought a battle that no human eye could fully understand. Slowly he rose, his face pale and lined with sorrow, and before leaving the room he looked once more at the man who had been given mercy until his final breath, and had chosen silence instead. Later that night, when the brothers gathered around him, Padre Pio spoke very softly, his voice almost breaking as he said, "Do not wait for the last moment to love the truth. At the hour of death, the soul becomes very small and very afraid. What you carry in your heart all your life will come to meet you then." He told them that God's mercy had stood at the door until the final second, that angels had waited with hands extended, and that even when the shadows approached, one honest word could still have changed everything. And then he added something that remained in the monastery long after his death. Hell is not always chosen by great crimes. Sometimes it is chosen by one last lie. From that day on, those who heard the story said they never looked at confession the same way again. They understood that truth is not only a rule, but a lifeline. That repentance is not a punishment, but a gift offered even at the edge of death. And so the story of that night became a warning and a mercy at the same time. A warning that pride can close the gates of heaven, and a mercy that God never stops knocking, not even in the final heartbeat. Because the message Padre Pio left behind was simple and terrifying and beautiful all at once. No matter how dark your past may be, the door of forgiveness remains open until your very last breath, but you must choose to walk through it yourself. In the end, it is not angels or demons who decide your eternity. It is the courage of your own heart to speak the truth when it matters most. And perhaps, if this story still chills the soul, it is because somewhere deep inside, every human being knows that one day they too will stand in that quiet room, with time slipping away, and the only thing that will matter is not what they owned, not what they achieved, but whether in their final moment they chose truth over fear, humility over pride, and mercy over silence. Mercy.